What's up, Dunwoody? Welcome back to the podcast all about Dunwoody, Georgia. My name is Matt Weber. Show is brought to you by Dr. Brett Friedman with Village Orthodontics and our friends at Discover Dunwoody. And today I've got a special friend. His name is Van Pappas. When I met Van a long time ago, I thought Van Pappas was like Madonna, but it's actually Van's your first name. Pappas is the last name.
It's not Van Halen, it's Van Pappas.
No, yes, exactly. That should have been my comparison. But Van had a podcast in 2018, right when I started mine, I guess. I think you started right before I did. And it's all about Chamblee. And it's called Between Two Trains. Let's start there. Tell me about the podcast and tell me about like why you did the podcast, because our stories are so similar that I've always got this special bond with you.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show. And I think I'm now a 3-timer on the show.
Yeah,
this is the third time I've been on the show. So I don't know if you're going to give me like a special jacket I can wear for being a 3-timer.
We don't have that kind of money here.
Okay. Between Two Trains, just like What's Up Dunwoody, it's about marketing and advertising and promoting. We were promoting local Chamblee businesses on the podcast. I'd interview those business owners to try to help them. As a certified financial planner, one of the things that I do when I have a business client is, we talk about how do we boost your revenue? How do we increase because listen, small business owners and you're a small business owner, right? You got the pizza shop, you got your real estate agency. When you have a small business owner, they're so focused on running their business, they don't have a lot of time to think about branding and marketing. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come on the show was because just like Between Two Trains was helping brand and market the local businesses, I think a lot of people forget that cities need to brand and market themselves as well. And, about a decade ago, I sat on Chamblee's Development Authority. And, at the time, Chamblee really had no development going on. This was still considered a little bit of an industrial area. We were trying to get out of that. We were trying to come out of that whole, economic downturn with the recession, and we had to figure out how we do that. And so the Development Authority was created. I sat on it, and one of the things that I was part of with that group was we created a committee called the Branding Committee, and we wanted to try to figure out what do we do to get people to think of Chamblee in a different way. And so a lot of people who have driven up and down Peachtree Boulevard might have seen that iconic Chamblee sign on top of the mixed-use development at Chamblee Tucker and Peachtree Boulevard, right? The big red Chamblee sign. That was us. That was the Development Authority who said, hey, we need everyone to know, because, Peachtree Boulevard had 30 to 40,000 cars driving on it every day. A lot of people just going through our city.
And you don't know where you are.
They didn't know that they were even in Chamblee. Right. And so that's where branding comes in. And we said, we need to brand our city. We need to let people know that they are in Chamblee. Let's put this big, bright, iconic sign that everyone can see when they're driving on that road. Yeah,
it is. Great sign.
And it worked. And so, there's a line from a Kevin Costner movie. I don't know if you've ever seen Bull Durham, but when Tim Robbins is pitching, he wants to throw his fastball and Kevin Costner doesn't want to, and he throws it anyways. And after a home run is hit, Kevin Costner comes out and says, what was that? I didn't call for the fastball. And Tim Robbins has a line that I absolutely love that I think translates to everything. He said, I wanted to announce my presence with authority. And that's what that sign does. It announces Chamblee with authority. And it's the same with like Wayfair signs and monuments when you come into the city. And I've noticed recently in a lot of the, because let's be honest, I'm talking about Chamblee, but it relates to Dunwoody too, right?
Yeah, we all keep up with each other.
The reason is Chamblee and Dunwoody, there's an arbitrary line that someone drew that said, here's the boundaries of your city and my city, but we're really North DeKalb. You could put Brookhaven, Chamblee, and Dunwoody all together and say, hey, this is really all the same. Yeah. And I'm sure there are people listening to this who probably would disagree with me, but I think when you say this is our city and we need to announce our presence with authority, how do you do that? And I'm really impressed with Dunwoody recently here the last 6 to 9 months as they've put up these monument signs around the city. I mean, I live in Chamblee, but I do a lot of my grocery shopping at the Kroger there at, right across the highway, right?
Yeah, that's the best sign. I think that's the best sign.
That is an awesome sign because think about all the people who are getting off the highway, turning in, and now, they see that sign. And a lot of people will probably comment on this saying, well, oh, it's a waste of money. What's
station.
The purpose? Yeah, it's in front of a gas station.
It's getting prettier though. They planted a lot of stuff around. It is getting better.
I think there are three things that people don't understand about signs like that. One, it enhances the visibility of your community, right? It reinforces the brand identity of your city, and it does boost economic activity. You're going to say, oh, well, how does it boost economic activity? Well, it increases people's awareness. When tourism, it's attracting more tourism because now they're coming in and going, oh, where am I? Oh, I'm in Dunwoody. And regardless of what citizens think, it does improve your property values because it makes it a better, more professional community. And let's be honest, you may not like paying property taxes, but when your property values double in the last 10 years, I mean, your net worth just went up. So thank you, Dunwoody City, whoever decided to put those up. I think it was a great, and it helps Chamblee too, right? Because now it's bringing the whole area up in value. And you can talk about, oh, well, Chamblee put one in front of the hotel on the other side of the highway, and now we've got this little turf war. I'm waiting for Brookhaven to put one on the corner, on their side. Corner.
They should.
But I think it benefits all of them. Enhanced visibility, reinforces brand identity, boosts economic activity.
Absolutely.
Trust me, I understand branding really well. Oxygen Financial, my financial planning firm, there's a dozen of us in the company, and we do a lot of branding. We cater to the XY generation, and if you look at our logo, it's lowercase o, capital X, capital Y, capital G for XY Gen.
I was writing that down, and I was like wondering why it was. That makes total sense.
Because we are marketing specifically to Gen X and Gen Y, and it was a very clever way to say, hey, we can take this word and we can change the size of the letters so that people focus their eyes on the capital X, capital Y, and capital G for Gen.
Love it.
Right?
Well, let's keep going into branding. So why'd you do this podcast? Why did you do the Between Two Trains podcast?
Between Two Trains, like I said, was about helping marketing our local businesses.
And about meeting people, right? I mean, that's why we know each other.
Marketing and branding myself, along with helping the business owners. And like yourself in Dunwoody, I'm a very much community guy. I sit on a lot of Chamblee boards. I help the Chamblee High School. I sit on their Blue and Gold Foundation, and my son's about to graduate there, and they're already saying, well, you're not leaving, right? He's going to be gone. And the band director's like, oh, well, you're going to stay next year and help us drive the truck with all the equipment. Yeah. So I like doing that because I think community is important. And when I had a child, 18 years ago, I said, I need to be more involved with my community because this is where I'm raising my family. I think a lot of people feel that way. Sometimes they don't want to do the work. That's okay. You don't have to. Sometimes, they want to sit behind a computer and complain about the city spending money on a big Dunwoody sign. That's okay. But I think you're missing the point of why branding and promoting your community is so important. It's a long-term investment, right?
I totally agree.
It's community pride. Now
and there's so much stuff specifically with the Dunwoody signs that you might not know about is that this was voted on like 2018, 2019, they came on the podcast, the old CVB before it was Discover Dunwoody came on the podcast and told us they were going to do this. What is that? 7 years ago? I mean, it's crazy that everybody thinks that all that kind of stuff happens in 6 months and that they didn't see any posts about a meeting that was coming up. They don't actually know where the money's coming from either. Like a lot of that money was set aside specifically for that long time ago. And then also during COVID, like some of the money that was given during COVID, and a lot of it came from the hotel motel tax and could only be used for wayfinding. There's just so much stuff that people don't know. I'm glad that you went on a rant instead of me.
There's two things in your statement that I want to point out. One is the time. You are correct. When we had that branding committee at the Development Authority in Chamblee, one of the things we did recommend was monument signs. That was recommended. That was in 2015, so 10 years ago. Yeah. And the Chamblee sign that we just mentioned at 285, that just came up in the last year. So it takes time. Unfortunately, cities are slow moving. You have to be patient with them. You have to understand that you're not going to go make a recommendation and it's going to happen tomorrow. There's a lot that goes into that. And the other thing is you mentioned Discover Dunwoody. And I've been really impressed with Discover Dunwoody. I'm a big fan of... Well,
they're a sponsor of the show, so you just keep going, man. Keep going. I don't have to add
I like Discover Dunwoody. I think when you have, especially when cities have their own sort of Discover Dunwoody, not every city does that, but when they have that, I think that sort of helps you have people there in the city that now better understand your city and can promote your city. And like you said, you know, those hotel dollars that you get can go for so many other things. I mean, a lot of people have been impressed with the summer concerts that Chamblee put on.
Those are great.
That comes from that hotel motel money that funnels through. We use Discover DeKalb. We don't have a Discover Chamblee, but it's the same concept, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so in the beginning, we talked about this before the show. In the beginning, I thought to myself, oh yeah. So with What's Up Dunwoody, I'll have like a calendar. I'll get people to tell me about their events, you know, like I'll get all these restaurant information and then I'll be able to put all that on the website. That is so much work. And Discover Dunwoody is doing a great job of it. And so now I can just send people to those things.
Yeah.
So it's just way easier and they are killing it. They
and it all ties in together. So by Discover Dunwoody doing that, and now they have a calendar, and now let's say I live in Gwinnett County, and I find, you know, I see the calendar, I see, oh, look, there's Lemonade Days. You know, I see it on the calendar. I see the events that are going on in Dunwoody. I'm going to go to Dunwoody. And guess what? They get off that highway, and what's the first thing they see? That big, iconic Dunwoody sign. So it all ties together. Yeah. You can't just say, oh, well, that's great. They have a calendar. People are coming, tourism. But, you know, now those tourism dollars are going towards things that help your community, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk social media. I've got all this stuff that I want to talk to you about, and we're already spent 14 minutes.
I love social media.
Yes, let's talk about social media. Let's talk about the Chamblee Area Restaurant Review Group.
Yeah, I stole that from you. I stole that from you.
I remember when you called, and it was it was cool. I mean, the more the merrier, in my opinion. Like, if other people want to do the same thing, that's great. And it couldn't have been done by a nicer person, you know, like somebody else could have destroyed the idea. And, you know, I feel like our groups are somewhat similar. Are you?
Well, I have a lot of members in my group that are Dunwoody citizens, and Probably. I think vice versa.
I bet there's a lot.
I get people who live in Dunwoody who post about Dunwoody restaurants in the Chamblee group. I'm okay with that because it helps all of us. Yeah. You know, I saw, you know, we sort of had that friendly. Okay, we each have a podcast. We started it roughly at the same time. And in fact, you know, I loved your branding of What's Up Dunwoody because I was like, damn, that's what I should have said. I should have called it What's Up Chamblee. But, you know, I if you hadn't figured out, I know you and I have had this conversation, but those listening, if they hadn't figured out, the Between Two Trains came from one night me watching Zach Galifianakis's Between Two Ferns. Yeah. And Chamblee has two train lines that run through the mill, Norfolk Southern and MARTA. And so that's where I got the idea for Between Two Trains. But I thought about, hey, in fact, I think I talked to you back in 2018, 2019 of, hey, maybe we could have a second podcast called What's Up Chamblee?
I'd still do it. Still do it.
Yeah,
I actually still have the Facebook page, I think. I want to say. Just never did anything with it.
I think your brother-in-law picked up all of those, right? Every local city he now has the What's Up tag for.
Yeah, and that was okay. Let's talk about the restaurant reviews a little bit.
Yeah, so the restaurant review, when I saw that you had created it, and I knew you owned a pizza shop, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. He's created a restaurant group, and COVID had just hit.
It's funny you mentioned that because I stole it from somebody else in Gwinnett. So there's no new ideas, right?
Of course not. Yeah, I'm sure someone. Your restaurant's in Lawrenceville? Where's it at?
Lawrenceville, but it was a Snellville area restaurant review group. And I thought it was a really cool idea. And in retrospect, I kind of wish I could have made it a little bit more positive, because restaurant reviews, I can't delete the negative stuff. Like it's just, if I start doing that, it'll become a problem. And so I'm
okay with the negative stuff. And here's why. Because I let restaurant owners into my group. They're in there. I limit what they can post because I don't want it just to be an advertisement for the restaurants, but I do allow them to post in there if they have
you've got me second thinking. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to make sure and lay down the rules with them and say, hey, listen, you cannot be posting every day. I limit them to about 2 posts a month. But if they want to, tell about some special, hey, I got a $6.99 chicken parm, whatever, or whatever they want, that's fine with me. But yeah, I really started when I saw yours and I said, hey, COVID had just hit. I had some free time. And I was like, restaurants are really hurting right now because of COVID. Maybe I can help promote them and they can get their word out. Just like the Between Two Trains, where I was trying to help the small business owner, it was a idea to try to help the restaurant owner. And I don't mind the negative, because I think that's what makes businesses better. When the restaurant owner sees the negative, they're like, okay, because they get into a rut, right?
Yeah.
They say, oh, I'm doing this thing, I know it's good, and blah, blah, blah. And if they don't get that negative feedback, then they may never make a change. Right. And so I'm okay. I'm okay with the negative posts.
Yeah. I've been told that, and I this really actually hurts because I own a restaurant. But when my restaurant owner friends tell me that this Facebook group is hurting their business, it hurts. I don't like it. But at the same time, like, the people that actually handle it correctly and just reach out, like David Abus, like if somebody smashes, one of his Dunwoody restaurants, he messages them, he says something online, says something, he's the first one to comment. And it's great because he's not saying you're stupid, like that's a terrible review. It's more of like, you tell me what we can do better, and come in, talk to me. We'll give you free. I don't know if he gives free meals or what, but he just handles it perfectly, and people see that.
That's a good business owner, and that's what business owners should be doing. They should be saying, hey, this is not a negative. This is a way for me to improve and try to make that relationship, because people are very forgiving. And they will come back. If you say, oh, your food sucks, and then that business owner reaches out and tries to solve that problem and lets the community know, hey, we hear you. We're making a change based on it. Here's a good example. Chamblee's got a new restaurant called Moondog, and they have a little area for the kids to play in. And there were a lot of complaints on my restaurant group about that little kid area, because unfortunately, what parents do, and I'm a parent and you're a parent, a lot of times we don't necessarily, when we go out, if we take our kids, we don't necessarily watch everything our kids are doing. And they were
throwing them in that area.
Parents were throwing them in that area and then going back to their seat and having their drinks and not even thinking about their kids. And the kids were just being disruptive. So Moondog heard that and has made a change to how they handle that kids area. And so that's a good business owner saying, hey, we hear the negative. We want to correct the negative. And here's what we did.
And I also think
they posted about it. They said, here's what we've done to correct. They literally made a post saying, yes, we hear your negativity and we're going to make the following changes.
Yeah. And so just to throw it out, if you're listening to this and you love Moondogs, they actually have a whole restaurant in Chamblee. You got to go check it out.
Yeah.
But I feel like also another thing with the negative reviews is that somebody might, say NFA burger sucks. The next 5 to 10 comments the next 5 to 10 comments are people saying, who says that? Like, what are you talking about?
I mean, they've obviously never had an NFA burger.
It's the community standing up for that business. And I think that that's cool. And it does get a little hostile sometimes, but if you're going to throw out, like, I think that this business should close because they got me sick. Like, I had digestive problems after I ate something. It's just not something you should be posting. And, if people are going to stand up for them, that's great, I think. So I've tried to just allow the community to take care of itself.
Yeah. And you know what? That makes the business even stronger, because now all those people, they're standing up for them, like, hey, I haven't been to NFA Burger in a couple of weeks. Let me go to NFA Burger.
Exactly. Exactly. It's funny how that works. What's up, everybody? I'm Woody, your friendly Dunwoody AI Golden Doodle. Discover Dunwoody is working tirelessly to put our city on the map as a premier destination for visitors. They're constantly updating their social media with exciting local events, dining options, and hidden gems that make Dunwoody special. Make sure to follow at Discover Dunwoody on Instagram and Facebook for the latest updates and insider tips. And have you checked out their YouTube channel? It's packed with engaging videos showcasing our beautiful parks, attractions, and community events. If you know someone planning a trip to the Atlanta area, make sure they visit whatsupdunwoody.com/hotels to find the perfect hotel in Dunwoody. When they book through that link, they're helping support this podcast and everything we do to highlight our community. And for local events happening in the area, head over to whatsupdunwoody.com/events. Let's spread the word about all the amazing things Dunwoody has to offer. Okay, and you got like a new, not podcast, but a live stream called Mind Over Money.
Yeah, it's a social media streaming show that I post on my different social media platforms.
Tell us about that.
Since I'm not doing the Between Two Trains anymore, I wanted to continue getting information out to people. It's called Mind Over Money, and it comes out every Thursday at noon on my social media platforms. And it's just basically me trying to use my knowledge and education as a financial planner to help people with, some financial education, some tips, some tricks, a few life hacks to make their life. Let's be honest, Matt. Everything in life revolves around money. You may not think so, but if you think hard enough, when you woke up this morning, what was the first thing you did? You rolled out of bed. Was the very first action you did?
Went to the bathroom. I don't know. Where are you going with this?
So you did go to the bathroom. You probably turned on the lights, right? So you could see your way. Guess what? Electricity costs money. You went into the bathroom. You maybe brushed your teeth, took a shower. Guess what? Water costs money.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Everything in life costs money. Every action. I would challenge anyone listening to this to think about every action they do. This right here that we're doing costs money, right? You have to pay for the streaming service that you're using to record this, that mic that you're talking into. Everything costs money. And we have to be more knowledgeable of what we're spending our money on. And the way to do that is to pay attention to our actions. Yeah.
This or this. You got to make decisions.
Everyone has a finite amount of income that you have to live in. And maybe you'll get a raise from your employer and you'll increase your income. That's great. But you have a finite amount of income. And if you're not paying attention to where that money is going, which most people don't, then you're not going to be successful. The most successful people are ones that keep track of, okay, I'm not talking about being a miser. You can still spend money. You just have to be aware of where you're spending money so that you can make the proper decisions.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's what the Mind Over Money show is. We sometimes bring on professionals. We've had lawyers on there, CPAs, real estate people, Do
you have Chamblee people? You have like local people?
Sometimes. Cool. I've had people from across the country, though. Yeah. My social media platform is not tied to just Chamblee, right? Anyone that's
I see you as just Chamblee, but yes, I'm sure.
I'm Mr. Chamblee, right?
I want to talk more about Chamblee. I want to talk about the differences between Dunwoody and Chamblee, because I I think a lot of people probably wouldn't notice that much of a difference. But to me, that corridor of Peachtree Industrial and apartments, just every
Peachtree
you guys,
Boulevard.
Peachtree Boulevard,
Peachtree
excuse me,
Boulevard.
Peachtree Boulevard.
We're very particular about our branding. And one of
Yes.
the things that we wanted to brand was we wanted to get rid of that industrial feel to
And I
Chamblee.
knew that, and I should have
Yeah,
said it correct properly.
that's
You
okay.
guys have that stretch of Boulevard was it was one of the when Whole Foods sold, that was the highest selling piece of land in all over Atlanta at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important land, and what you've done with it is just piled apartments up and down it. Where in Dunwoody, we haven't had an apartment except for High Street, which was voted in a long time ago or grandfathered in. We haven't had any apartments since 2010. I mean, since the city was established.
Yeah.
I love the differences there because we're
I
both
think
succeeding
there's
very
a
well.
reason for that too. The
Tell me
reason
about it.
is, Chamblee was industrial. Where the Lowe's used to be a Frito-Lay factory. Where the Whole
Yep.
Foods was Oxford Chemical site. We were all up and down Peachtree Boulevard. We're industrial sites, and as we've changed that and rebranded that area, we identified that there were three things that needed to occur. We wanted more retail. To get more retail, you had to have more people. And there was nowhere we could build. We have some great little neighborhoods in Chamblee, Sexton Woods, Huntley Hills. We have a number of those neighborhoods, but we don't have any space to put new housing except for apartments. And so we identified if we want to bring in the Whole Foods, if we want to bring in, look at downtown Chamblee. In 2007, there was one restaurant in downtown Chamblee, Vintage Pizza. Now you go down to Peachtree Road. You literally just walk from place to place. There's, 24 restaurants in that corridor. And that's because the development authority said, hey, we not only need to brand and put this iconic sign, but we got to bring people. And so let's cut some deals to get more people. I think that phase is over for Chamblee. You might still see the occasional, apartment complex go up, but I think for the most part, Chamblee achieved what they wanted. They said we brought more people in a dense area because let's be honest, they're not building any more land inside 285. If you live inside 285, you got to deal with what you have, and the best way to deal with that is density. And a lot of people don't like. Trust me, I got so many people yelling at me, along with my fellow development authority, when we started, incentivizing apartments to come. It's going to bring more traffic. It's going to bring more riffraff. It's going to bring more low-income people. That's not what has happened at all.
Yeah. How do you think it turned out? You think
I think it's turned out incredible because now I can get on the rail trail and walk from my neighborhood all the way through downtown. I can hit bars. I can hit restaurants. I can do shopping. It transformed Chamblee Plaza. If you know where Chamblee Plaza is, across from where the Chick-fil-A is, that was a dying shopping center.
Absolutely. My wife,
over half of the complex was vacant, boarded up.
When I met my wife, she lived off Foresta Court. It was like just right off of Harts Mill up the street. And I remember coming to that area and thinking, this is not very nice. And now, you drive down Peachtree Boulevard and it's really nice. Like
if you go into Chamblee Plaza today, you will actually have a hard time finding a parking spot sometimes because between now having a Publix there and the Crunch Fitness and all the other businesses, the Ace Hardware, restaurants in there, Chick-fil-A was rebuilt, all those things have driven economic activity. And the reason that complex got revitalized was because now the businesses, Publix would never have come 10 years ago. But once they saw the demographic of more people in the area because of all the apartments, they're like, hey, there's more customers. That's why Whole
you did
Foods
a good job. You did a good job of making it a small Publix and like making it different. And I know it wasn't you, but the Chamblee area, I guess you probably did have a little bit to do with it.
Trinity
With
Real Estate, they're the ones that did that. I can't say enough about what they did with Chamblee Plaza.
And they made it like look old school. It's cool. I think they did a really good job with it. And I don't notice, I mean, maybe it's happened slowly over time, that much of traffic. I don't think traffic's changed that much down that street. There was always people cutting from Gwinnett all the way to the city, going
that's
down
going to happen. That's going to happen.
Industrial or Boulevard.
and having been born and raised in this area, really ever since 1996 when the Olympics happened. I mean, before 96, okay, it's a big city, but it's really not a big city. And traffic, it kind of sucked, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, as a kid, I would ride my bicycle up and down Roswell Road. I mean, who would let their kid ride their bicycle up and down Roswell Road today? Yeah. I think 96 happened, the Olympics happened, everything exploded. And you have to realize if you want to live inside 285, if you want to live in especially on the north end of Atlanta, you're just going to have to realize find some alternatives. If you don't like sitting in traffic, find some alternatives. Yeah. That's the one thing I think we could do better is, creating, and I think all these cities are creating these trails, right? The rail trail in Chamblee and Path 400 and, the Atlanta Regional Commission wants to connect all of those together so that you can literally get on your bike in Chamblee and make it all the way to the BeltLine downtown.
Yeah. And it goes pretty far now. We're going to have to deal with Doraville to get them to connect it too. But
Doraville, in my opinion, is the next shoe to drop because
Doraville is about to explode. It is going to
explode. If you live in Doraville, I think you should be really excited about what I think is going to happen over the next 10 years.
I would have never guessed that I would have been advising people to invest in Doraville, but I've sold a couple homes over there and they're cheap. They're cheap.
They're still affordable.
$300,000 for a single family home. You can't find that around here.
No.
And they are. I think that
I own 2 homes in Huntley Hills, and it's been shocking to me what the value has changed since I bought the first one in 2000 and the second one in 2008. And, today I would never have guessed that the prices of what my properties are worth. Why? Because the area has become more popular. The city of Chamblee has done a good job of marketing and branding and changing the look and feel. They've brought in, more businesses, and now people want to kind of live here, and they want to live in the apartments too, because they can't afford, a $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 home in the Chamblee neighborhoods.
What about school overcrowding? That was, I'm sure that's what some people are thinking. Traffic, school overcrowding. Has school overcrowding been a problem?
I sit on Chamblee's Blue and Gold Foundation, which is the arm that helps the school with, providing them things that the county just won't pay for. I'm not going to go into a diatribe about my views on the county school system, but there is overcrowding. I don't think it's because necessarily of the apartments. We've done some studies, and there are some kids in the apartments, but not a lot.
What always surprises me is just how little amount of kids are in the apartments,
well, because
especially the nicer apartments.
If it's a 2-bedroom apartment and you've got 2 kids, you're not moving into it, right?
No.
Unless you're going to cram 2 kids in one bedroom, which I guess you could. But I think the overcrowding of Chamblee High, and I know it's occurring at Dunwoody as well, and all the schools, is the general overall increase in population around the whole area, not just the apartments. We are very overcrowded at Chamblee. Unfortunately, the building was built just over 10 years ago. Our new building is now a decade old. When they built it, they did not build it to the future. They built it to the current population. And they didn't think about, our population is going to increase. Right. It was built for 1,600 kids. I talked with the principal at Chamblee High just a couple of weeks ago, and she's already got enrollment for the fall. They're going to be at 1950. 350 kids more than the school can hold.
That's crazy. Well,
Dunwoody, it's a problem. It's a serious problem.
Dunwoody kind of solved our problem during COVID by DeKalb, not allowing the kids to go to school. A lot of people left. And so our overcrowded schools are suddenly okay.
Yeah.
They're not super bad anymore, which is not, obviously that's not what you want, but at the same time, it's kind of solved itself, I feel
Yeah.
like.
I think what will help is, they're talking about the new cross keys, and they're talking
Yeah,
about,
I saw that.
some new schools. I think that will help some, but it
Mhm.
can't come fast enough. And unfortunately, there's going to be a couple of grades. They're going to go through these overcrowded, Chamblee High and our elementary schools are. You shouldn't have elementary kids in trailers. I
Yeah.
just don't agree with that, and unfortunately, they do.
Yeah, I think that happens everywhere. I mean, I grew up in Gwinnett, and that area grew so fast that they just had to keep piling up trailers. We at least had the money to fix up the schools. I think they did a little bit better of a job, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm older than you, but we were never in trailers. I went
Yeah,
to
we were.
High Point Elementary and Sandy Springs Middle, and then
Okay, so
Riverwood, and never once was I ever in a trailer, or did our
yeah.
schools have trailers.
So I had a friend move here just recently. Her name's Tanya, and she is a big fan of Chamblee. She lived in Gwinnett. She's actually a principal in Gwinnett, but she saw that was it railway? What is it called? The
Rail
rail
trail.
trail
Rail trail.
was the spot that she wanted to live in all of Atlanta. She moved to Chamblee, and they downsized. They got a little apartment or condo right there next to the rail trail, and just loves it. She thinks it's the coolest thing in the world, and tells everybody from Gwinnett about Chamblee. Like, yeah. I would have never thought that anybody would, pick Chamblee, that area. So what you guys have done with that rail trail and the restaurants in that area is just amazing to me.
Yeah. I think it's going to get even better because, the plans, and as we mentioned earlier in the show, cities move slowly. We've been talking about this rail trail for 2 decades. Our former mayor was a big proponent of it, got it started, and it's expanded. It's now, has a great way for you to get from one side of Peachtree Boulevard to the other without ever touching Peachtree Boulevard. It goes underneath the road. And
that's a cool area. I think a lot of people don't know that.
Up the center of the city, and the plans are to continue it past City Hall. And it's the final plans show it going all the way to the Assembly project there in Doraville. So that people that work at that those studios will literally be able to get on the trail and come down into Chamblee and eat at our restaurants and shop in our things and never have to get in a car.
Yeah, that Assembly area, I don't know if you've actually been inside of it. It is phenomenal.
It's incredible.
So cool. And there's like a park right outside. And every time that I talk about it, I feel like everybody in Dunwoody should go by this one area that's all open to the public. It's beautiful, and there's nobody there. It's just this huge park with like waterfalls, water features. The guys that did the Bellagio in Vegas they did those fountains. It's beautiful, and it's all this open space, and nobody's ever there. And it's on the trail. Like, they have a trail right there. So you guys definitely need to get that connected. That would be really cool.
It will take another 10 years, but it will get connected.
It's so close, though, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then Dunwoody can connect, and you can ride from Dunwoody all the way to Buckhead. That would be pretty sweet.
The key is connecting our rail trail with the trail that goes through Brookhaven, because that will go all the way down to the BeltLine. And so if we can get those two connected over at Dresden Park, and bring that into Chamblee and then over to the rail trail. Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Be really, really cool. So, okay. Tell us how to get in touch with you. Tell us maybe a little bit about the Mind Over Money, like how people can find that.
Mind Over Money are on my socials. So if you want to connect with me, I connect with everyone. I've got, 12, 13,000 people on LinkedIn. It's on LinkedIn. It's on my Facebook page. I have another page called the Mind Over Money page on Facebook that you can join as well to see those and other financial planning content. And then, so I love connecting with people. And then of course, oxygenfinancial.net is our website, and, you can see all about our company. But I'm more interested in connecting with Dunwoody people about our community, because I do think that Dunwoody and Chamblee benefit each other. What we do helps y'all, and what y'all do helps us. And so
And I've been surprised how much you care about
the sign war that has occurred, between the Chamblee sign at the hotel and the Dunwoody sign, because I think it's fun.
I love it. You reached out to me about our signs. I was like, well, Van, you can come in and talk about your business. We talk about Chamblee. You're like,
I'll talk about the Dunwoody signs. I love
the branding.
The Dunwoody signs are awesome because they really do help increase property values and a branding message that I think is important. And you can sit here and debate whether you like the style or the font or, how it says, should it be lit up? Should it not be lit up? I don't care about that. It's just that it's there. You know what y'all had before? You had a little 2x2 sign that said, "Welcome to Dunwoody."
Most of them had fallen down.
Or they were rusted. The one that's sitting in front of La Botana is rusted, know?
Yep. Absolutely. But I mean, there's keyboard warriors on Facebook, and there's going to be something that they complain about. So they
can laugh all the way to the bank when their property values double.
There you go. Hopefully. Well, cool. Thanks for coming on, Van. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome on anytime.